Spreadsheets are a great way to be able to analyze data and to build models. There are two that we will be using in this class, or that we'll be able to use in this class. The first one is going to be in Google Drive. Now, if you are in a folder in Google Drive, you can go ahead and open anything new. You can start a new folder. You can do a Google Doc. Here, what we're going to do is we're going to open up a Google Sheet. We go ahead and click on the New button. We click on Google Sheets. It's going to take a second, but it's going to open us up to a spreadsheet. And this is what a spreadsheet looks like. There's lots of different types of spreadsheets out there, different companies that make them, different software packages that have them, but they're all basically the same. And this is what Google Sheets looks like. If you're going to be using Excel, go ahead and open Excel. And when you open it, it should have something that looks like this, where it might say, what do you want to open up? I usually just open up a blank workbook. That's just going to be a blank spreadsheet that we can just start from scratch with. And as you can see, these two things look very similar. Where is it? There it is. So what we can do with the spreadsheet is we can type in them. But the question is, what are we going to type? What type of data are we going to put in here? What values are we going to put in here? So let's talk a little bit about some basics first. All right, so first things, this whole grid, whether we're talking about a Google Sheet or we're talking about Microsoft Excel, is called a sheet. And if I want more than one sheet, I want to put some data in here, and then I'd like to have another sheet with more data, I can go ahead and do that. And I do that in Google Sheets by adding the little plus sign down here. And it adds a second sheet. So it's basically like having a second sheet of paper. It's a different spreadsheet, but they're all going to be saved in the same document. Excel has a very similar thing to do. It has a little plus sign. It's in a slightly different spot. But again, we can add as many sheets as we want. The other thing to notice is these are divided up into rows and columns. The columns are A, B, C, and D. They're alphabetic, whether it is a Google Sheet or whether it's Excel. And our rows are going to be numeric, the 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's going to continue on like that. So that means that if I have any particular cell, and a cell is a spot where we can type, it's a place where we can put values. So if I click on a random one, let's say right here, this is determined by two things. It's determined by the column that we're in, and it's determined by the row that we're in. And this highlights the column, so it says that this cell, the one that's highlighted in blue, is in column C, and it is in row 8. And so if I wanted to find the same cell over in Excel, I would go to column C, and I'd go down until I reach column 8. I go ahead and click on it. And again, it highlights that cell, C8. So the things that I can do with spreadsheets are going to pretty much be anything that I want, as long as you're really not trying to type up a Word document. But it's a great place to store data. It's a great way to make lists. It's a great way to plot things. And so a couple quick things, since this is just going to be an intro video, I'm going to just show you how to type a couple things in here simply. If I just want to make a list of something and I want to start with 1, I just type a 1 in a cell, and it doesn't really matter what cell we're in, and I hit enter. And if I hit enter, we move down. And so then I can hit 2, and I can continue on doing that. One thing that a lot of spreadsheet software packages are good at is they've updated it so there's a lot of pre-built-in things, because it is, you know, they've been around for a long time, and so they know how to do some really cool things. there are a lot of shortcuts we can take. So let's say that I wanted to make a list of things, and if I want to highlight, I'm going to click and hold, and then I drag down, and I can highlight as much stuff as I want. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to click, hold, drag through everything that I just wrote, and I'm going to press delete once everything's highlighted. So let's say that I want to make a list of numbers that goes 1 through 10. I could very easily just go 1, enter, 2, enter, 3, enter, and keep doing that until I get to 10. And it only takes a few seconds to do that. It doesn't take too long. But sometimes we want to do more. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I'm going to show you a couple other ways to do this. And this will work just as easily in Excel. So what we're going to do is I'm going to type a 1 and then enter, and then a 2 and then enter. But then I'm going to stop and I'm going to click on my first number, my 1. I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to highlight my 1 and my 2. Spreadsheets can recognize patterns, at least basic patterns. They're not great at difficult patterns. But now that I've highlighted a 1 and then a 2, it's going to assume that I want to count up by ones. And you'll notice that down here in the corner there is a square, and in Google Sheets it is blue. In Excel it will be green. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over it, and you'll see that my cursor changes from the arrow to like a plus sign or a cross. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, when it's the plus sign or cross, I'm going to click and hold, and then I'm going to drag it down. I'm going to drag it down as far as I want. And what it's going to do is it's going to automatically make this pattern continue up to that point. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. So everything's highlighted. I'm just going to press delete. And I'm going to show you one more way to do this. I'm going to press a 1 and then an enter. And that's all I'm going to do as far as actually typing in actual values that are going to be in this column. Instead, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use an equation. So what I'm going to do is underneath the one that I typed a 1 in, I'm going to click into that cell, and I'm going to press an equal sign. And anytime you use an equal sign in Excel or in Google Sheets, what it's telling it is that we're going to do some type of calculation. We're going to type something in here, and it's going to take some data, and it's going to give us the answer. So what's going to be left in this cell after we hit enter is the answer. And what I want to do is I want to say I want to take the thing above it. And so I hit an equal sign, and then I'm going to click the cell above it. I'm going to click the cell B2. And you'll notice that it actually references cell B2 exactly that way. It calls it B2. So it takes whatever's in there, and it's even giving you a little preview here. It's saying we're going to do 1 times. So I'm going to press a times sign right there. So 1 times, I don't want times, I want plus, sorry. I'm going to do 1 plus something. Well, if we're thinking about it, I want to take the thing above it, and I want to add 1. So B2 is the thing above it, and I want to add 1, so plus 1. And it's telling me that it equals 2. Now if I hit enter, well, it took the 1 above it and added 1, so now it equals 2. If I had to go through and do this again and say I want to hit an equal sign, do the 1 above it, and I want to add 1, this would take forever, and it wouldn't be a very good way of doing things. So instead, what we're going to do is not in the one that we just typed our number 1 into, but in the cell that we typed our equation into. I'm going to just click on it, and again, you'll see that there is a little square down in the right-hand corner. I'm going to click on that square, and I'm going to pull it down as far as I want. And what it's going to do is it's going to copy that equation into all the cells that I drag it into. And so if I click on any one of them, so here I'm clicking on B4, And I could double click on this, or I can also look up here just above the spreadsheet itself, and it tells me what's in that cell. Inside that cell isn't actually the number 3. What it is it's saying the value of B3 plus 1. Remember, B3 is 2, and I added 1 to it, so it's showing me a 3. And if I click on any one of these, it's telling me exactly what it's doing. Another way to do this in a way that's actually really nice, especially as things maybe get a little bit more complicated or you're a little bit confused, is go ahead and double click on a cell. And it highlights the thing that it's doing. It's saying we're taking the thing above it, B6, and we're adding 1. Well, this is 5. We're adding 1, so the answer should be 6, which it is. And we can do the exact same thing in Excel. Now, this isn't all that Excel can do. Excel can do a whole lot of things. This is just a quick introduction to what a spreadsheet is. We can make more sheets, and you'll see that all this information is on sheet 1. If I click to sheet 2, it's blank. It doesn't mean that we deleted everything. It's just like turning a page of a notebook. We just have a new spreadsheet to work with. I can go back to sheet 1. If I want to, I can rename this sheet, and I can call it whatever I want. We talked about columns. We talked about rows. And we talked about being able to input things, and we showed you a couple different ways to do it. I can just type things in. I can create patterns, and I can have Excel or Sheets go ahead and copy that pattern. And then we also talked a little bit about being able to make equations. And these equations are ways to make Excel or Sheets do all the hard work for us. We can just type a few things in, and we can make it to do all the calculations for us.